Raymond just informed me that I have to wish you all a happy New Year today because I won't be seeing you. So thank you, Raymond, for that reminder. I would have just felt awful if I hadn't said anything today. So happy New Year, everybody.
Where's the party?
Excuse me?
Where's the party? Where's the party?
Where's the party? Definitely not at my house.
Oh.
Come over and watch movies if you want.
So we saw that Steph was probable. What's the official word? And obviously, if in the other event he's playing, what's his limits restriction, if he has one?
We will. I'd be shocked if we didn't keep him under 30. If we don't, that's my fault. My plan is to play him in 6-7 minute bursts. Ideally 4 of those bursts. Sounds about right to me. But this is not an exact science, and so we've discussed it. I've talked with Chelsea and with Steph about it. So this will be a case of he's got to give us feedback as to how he's feeling. I will keep an eye on him in terms of his wind and his conditioning. But I think ideally 20-25 minutes would be nice.
Hey, Steve, on that point, I mean, obviously a game is much different, but what's been your assessment of how his conditioning has looked as he's been making this progress?
Well, he looks great, but he hasn't played in an NBA basketball game, which is totally different than, guarding Willie Green in a 3-on-3 scrimmage. Nothing against Willie. Well, he's a great friend and a hell of a coach, but he's no longer playing in the NBA. So tough to judge Steph's conditioning on that matchup. But I think he's done everything possible to get himself ready for tonight, but there's no substitute for game action.
Who slides to the inactive list, and how do you think this kind of affects the kind of back end of your rotation?
Yeah, it's one of my biggest pet peeves. I saw Jeff Hornacek was talking about this the other day too in New York. Having to decide when you have everybody healthy, having to decide who's inactive. I don't understand. Actually, I do understand. I think the league needs the seats. They don't want. They want 13 players rather than 15, so they can. There's room because all those, all the seats are jammed in there around the court. So I do understand it, but it makes it really difficult, for the players themselves to not be active when they're perfectly healthy. And if it's the seats, I can tell 2 guys to sit on the floor. It's we can figure that out. But we'll see if Omri's going to go tonight. Everything depends on whether Omri plays. If he doesn't play, then we won't have anybody inactive, obviously.
Steve, in the absence of Steph, obviously you guys had to make some adjustments, but by the numbers, it looks like a lot of the adjustments has come on the defensive end of the floor. Is there a couple of specifics that you've identified or where you saw your team maybe turn things up a notch or two in those categories that have led to those numbers?
I think more than anything, it's the fear of playing without Steph Curry. Just the natural reaction of our players to understand. All right, we don't have Steph. We've got to buckle down. And when your focus is a little bit better and your competitive desire is there, then you're gonna play a little better defensively. We're going to discount last night because for whatever reason that didn't carry over to last night. But for the most part, since he's been out, our defense has been great. And it's not anything strategic. It's just we had to do what we had to do to win games.
Steve, I know you want your guys to be unselfish, but you've got a few guys clearly the last few games are turning down shots. McCaw, maybe Andre. Do you ever say you got to shoot that ball? Do you ever tell them if the shot's there, just take it?
I tell Patrick that. We talk to Patrick. As a young player, we're always trying to help Patrick along, and Loon and Jordan, and so we're constantly passing on tips. Like, hey, this is a case where you need to shoot it because it's the play, it calls for it. I don't always say something to him, but I do periodically. I don't say much of anything to Andre. Andre, he knows how to play. He knows what he's doing, and he'll be fine. I don't worry about Andre.
Do Do you think in the long run, in the playoffs, that this 11-game long rest will benefit Steph?
I do. Given the comprehensive 4-year run in terms of going, deep into the playoffs, the last 3, and then hopefully again this year. A little rest here and there does not hurt, both physically and mentally and emotionally. Steph is really excited to get back out tonight, and sometimes the absence of a month of basketball gives you a little more excitement and energy, and I know he feels that way, and it'll probably do the same thing with our crowd and with our team too.
Steve, I don't know if you're a big Instagram guy, but Steph had a Billy Madison back to school video. Did you see that?
I did not. My wife is on Instagram, and I'm not. So usually if there's something like that, she'll show me, but we have not had a chance to collaborate on the Instagram front tonight, so I haven't seen it. But I'm sure it's funny knowing Steph.
Steve, beyond the defense, what would maybe be your biggest takeaway from Steph's absence, what you guys did with him out?
Well, number one, again, throw last night out the window. We competed at a good level, and we found ways to win. And I thought on an individual basis, a lot of guys really played well. Jordan Bell emerged, played bigger minutes. I thought, Kevin took on a bigger load, and just shouldered that load beautifully and did everything we needed. And I think, guys just filled in. Omri was great, and Nick Young played better. And so everybody stepped up and did what they had to do.
You guys doubled Dwight a bunch last night and kind of sprung some leaks in your defense. Do you think that was partly just the team that's not used to doubling, or what do you think was the reason for all those?
I think that was my fault. I like to double selectively, and certain areas that are more vulnerable than others. And I don't think I communicated that well enough last night to our guys in terms of when to go, when not to. So that was not good coaching on my part. But we there were a couple times early in the first half where we didn't go when we should have, and then several in the second half when we did go when we shouldn't have. So we were a little confused in our coverages, and that's up to me and my staff.
Coach, this team, you've mentioned really that the emphasis in the regular season maybe is a little bit decreased with this run that you're on. But just taking stock of where this team is, where you want to be, ultimately, what are the main areas of concern for you to say, hey, we got to get better at this by the playoffs if we're going to get to where we want to go?
I'm always going to start out with the turnover battle, the possession battle. We have to get more possessions than our opponent. Or we don't have to, but when we do, we're really hard to beat. And when we don't, then we're vulnerable, like last night showed. They got offensive rebounds, free throws. They went to the line 34 times, I think, which meant they were setting their defense up. We went to the line 12 or 14 or something. We turned it over 6-7 more times than they did, I believe. So that's the main area of concern, and that encompasses, taking care of the ball, boxing out, fouling. So there you have it.
From the outside, it looks like JaVale's minutes have decreased over the past few weeks. Any rhyme or reason to that?
Well, you can't play 15 guys. It's impossible. And I basically play 11. Almost every night I play 11, which is it's hard to even do that. So there's always going to be 4 guys who don't play. If you can find the 4 that shouldn't, please let me know, because I can't do that. We got a lot of guys who can play. But there are going to be points during the season where it's some guys' time and it's other guys' time to sit. And right now it's just not his time, but that can change quickly. Thanks a lot.